A night at the bar. The air in Nightfall Bar was filled with an ambiguous atmosphere. One starry night, please. Tu Young tugged at his tie, speaking lazily to. Su Rao was momentarily stunned by the man before him. Since graduating and starting this job, it was the first time he'd seen such a good-looking man. Realizing his brief loss of composure, he quickly responded, "Okay, one moment." Starry Night was a specialty cocktail at the bar, and this man didn't seem like a first-time visitor. How come he hadn't seen him before? Su Rao kept his curiosity hidden and skillfully added a few ice cubes into a tequila glass. He then poured orange juice and lemon juice into a shaker, mixed them, and poured the mixture into a tall glass. He carefully added blueberry and pomegranate juices, stirred gently, and placed the drink in front of the man, bowing slightly. "Here you go, sir." Tu Yong propped his chin on his hand, observing Su Rao with interest. He took a sip of the drink and commented, "Nice skills." Not bad looking either, he thought to himself. He hadn't been to the bar in a few months due to his busy schedule, and it seemed like there was a new bartender. Though he looked good himself, he enjoyed appreciating others with a similar aesthetic. Thinking this, he smiled at Su Rao. Su Rao quickly turned to make another drink, thinking, "This guy is smiling at me like that. He can't be a creep, right?" He patted his chest in relief, thankful he hadn't struck up a conversation, or he might have been hit on. Unaware that he had been labeled a creep, Tu Yong scrolled through his WeChat. It was all work notifications. Boring, utterly boring. He opened his QR code on WeChat and on a whim, held it out to Su Rao. "Wanna add me?" Su Rao swallowed nervously. Was this guy really a creep? Who asks to add someone on WeChat at first meeting? "No need, sir." He tried to push the phone away. "Have we met before?" Tu Yang's eyes slightly lifted, carrying a hint of allure. "No, no, don't be swayed by good looks," Su Rao reminded himself, though he remained calm on the surface. "That's a bit outdated, sir." Tu Yang chuckled lowly. So, he was mistaken for hitting on someone? This was the first time anyone had misunderstood him. It seemed like this wasn't as boring as he thought. "So, are you adding me or not?" It wasn't a lie. He genuinely felt that the moment Su Rao turned to mix the drink, he looked familiar. Had they met before? Or was it just his imagination? Watching Su Rao struggle with the decision to scan the code was amusing. "Do I really look that scary?" "Another drink, please," he said, showing his empty glass. "This drink is strong," Su Rao reminded him kindly. "I'm very annoyed," Tu Young admitted, surprising himself with how openly he shared his feelings with this stranger. Something about Su Rao made him feel it was okay to do so. Su Rao prepared another drink, pushing it toward him. He opened his mouth several times, unsure of what to say. He wasn't good at comforting people. Finally, he tentatively asked, "Heartbreak? Lost your job?" Tu Young shook his head, indicating neither. Just yesterday, he found several hidden cameras in his room and bathroom. As someone who considered himself vigilant, it was clear these had been placed while he was out. It wasn't hard to guess that obsessive fans were responsible. As he gained more popularity over the past 2 years, so did the number of people who disliked him, along with the emergence of these obsessive fans. "Damn," he muttered, increasingly annoyed as he thought about it. He downed the second drink like it was water. "Another one." His tone was flat, as if he were drinking plain water. Su Rao couldn't help but wonder if his tolerance was really that high. But a customer is a customer, and he had to serve them. How else could he earn money? He was new at this job, with not much experience and only working night shifts. He didn't make much money and felt this job wouldn't last long. He needed a backup plan to avoid ending up with nothing. He didn't want to recall the struggles of his first 10 years. "Third drink now," Su Rao noted. The man didn't seem as clear-headed as he appeared, but he didn't seem drunk either. Su Rao thought about saying more but decided against it. He figured someone would come to pick him up if he got too drunk. Tu Young nodded, acknowledging he knew. He wasn't much of a drinker but wanted to let loose for once. As an idol for the past 2 years, he'd managed himself strictly. He rarely drank, even when coming to the bar, and barely smoked. Thinking about it made him crave a cigarette. "Gotta smoke?" he asked, wanting to indulge just for tonight. He didn't have any work for the next few days and might even get kicked out of the group tomorrow. He didn't care about those things, but it still bothered him a bit. Yes, Su Rao answered, looking at the men and women dancing. Not going to dance? It was rare to see someone just sitting and drinking. Tu Young shrugged, taking a drag. Very boring. Su Rao had seen handsome men before, but there was something about the way this man smoked. So cool and indifferent. It really got to him. Tu Young felt a bit dizzy, rubbing his temples and putting out the cigarette. When do you get off work? Su Rao was taken aback. This question sounded like they'd known each other for a while. Even Tu Young seemed surprised at himself after saying it. Sorry, that was rude. I might be a little drunk. Su Rao shook his head, indicating it was fine. He glanced at the time. It was indeed time for a shift change. He bid farewell to Tu Young and went to change clothes. What kind of stable job should I look for? As he changed, he suddenly remembered his degree in Chinese language. He didn't want to be a teacher back then, so he came to bartend. But with that degree, there were other options besides teaching. The conversation between two young women earlier replayed in his mind. Did you read Pikachu Dada's latest story? A girl with large wavy curls asked. Yes. It's Moonlight. It's amazing. So heart-wrenching. The two chatted passionately about the plot, ignoring even the handsome guys who tried to chat them up. Passing by, Su Rao pondered their conversation. After changing clothes, Su Rao left the locker room, intending to head home. But he hesitated and turned back to the bar. The man was still there, drinking, or was he? He checked his phone. Tu Young accepted your friend request. Tu Young? That's a nice name. He put his phone away and approached the man. Tu Young. Tu Young opened his eyes, looking dazed. The more he looked at Su Rao, the more familiar he seemed. Where have we met before? Hey, what's up with you? You all right? Su Rao asked. No, take me home. Su Rao was amused by his straightforwardness. They had just met, right? How could this guy be so shameless? If you're still clear-headed, go home by yourself. He turned to leave, planning to catch the last bus home. Su Rao paused, seeing Tu Young collapse on the bar. He sighed. I must owe you a favor. He considered taking Tu Yang's phone to call a friend to pick him up, but felt that might be invasive. Give me your phone, he requested gently. Phone here. Like a child obediently handing over his phone, Su Rao chuckled. This guy was kind of cute when drunk. Su Rao unlocked the phone with Tu Yang's fingerprint and opened the contacts. He dialed the most recent number. The sun must have risen in the west. What brings you to call me? Su Rao frowned at the strange tone, checking the contact name, Agent. What a strange way to speak. Hi, are you Tu Yang's friend? He's drunk at the bar. Can you come pick him up? Li Yin paused, holding a contract. I'm busy. Find someone else. She was about to hang up. Wait. Can you at least give me his home address? Su Rao looked at the quietly lying Tu Young. Forget it. I'll just do a good deed for the day. Maybe the heavens will bless me with good fortune. Oh, he moved yesterday. I don't know where, not my responsibility, she said indifferently. Su Rao angrily hung up. Was she really his agent? He tried another number, this time calling his sister, but got a voicemail. The number you have dialed is unavailable. Su Rao put the phone back in Tu Yang's pocket, feeling a bit of pity. Guess he's just a poor kid, he thought. He lifted Tu Young, glancing at the time. Great, missed the last bus. Tu Young remained unresponsive, trying to rest his head on Su Rao's shoulder. Su Rao pushed him away. Where's your place? You can't stay at mine. Tu Young looked at Su Rao, his eyes unfocused, as if evaluating whether he was trustworthy. After a few seconds, he mumbled, Xin Hua Apartments, 1552. Su Rao sighed in relief. At least you can still communicate. He was worried Tu Young might turn out to be a crazy drunk. So far, he seemed well-behaved. Wait, isn't that the place my uncle rented for him? It seemed they lived close by. Su Rao reluctantly opened a ride-hailing app, silently adding the fare to Tu Yang's tab. They arrived at the destination quickly. After getting out, Su Rao rubbed his shoulder. How did this guy manage to stay still on his shoulder the whole way? Don't even think about leaning on me again. He helped Tu Young out of the car. 1552? That's right next door. Just moved in and already neighbors. Quite the coincidence. Su Rao opened his door and dumped Tu Young on his bed, heading off to shower. As soon as he left, the man on the bed opened his eyes, but only for a moment before rolling over and falling back asleep. Content. Su Rao came out, towel drying his hair, to find the scene of Tu Young sprawled across the bed, fast asleep. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if dreaming of something unpleasant. Before he could feel sorry for him, he noticed the shoes. Tu Young was still wearing them, on his bed. Get up, get up. You reek of alcohol, and you're wearing shoes. Su Rao was annoyed. Ah, but a drunkard doesn't follow reason, he sighed. He wanted to punch the guy, but these were his white sheets. Tu Young didn't respond, shifting further into the bed. Su Rao yanked him upright. Sit up. If I'm going to be a good person, might as well go all the way, Su Rao thought, hoping the heavens would reward him for helping a stranger. Tu Young was forced to sit up, half asleep, and even managed to smile. No matter how much you smile, you're still a drunkard. And I thought you could hold your liquor, Su Rao muttered, taking off Tu Young's shoes and jacket before tossing him back on the bed. Then he scratched his head. Damn it. Where am I supposed to sleep? He'd been living in this small room since graduation, with no extra items aside from necessities. He didn't even have a sofa to save money. Damn Tu Young, he thought, grabbing a small notebook to jot down another debt. Su Rao found a mat and laid it out, relieved to find an extra blanket. Good thing I was smart enough to buy an extra one, he thought. The cold weather wouldn't do well for his bones. Though cold, Su Rao quickly fell asleep from the day's exhaustion, spending the night in a half-awake state. This left him with a pounding headache in the morning. Tu Young rolled over in bed, suddenly pausing. He sat up, rubbing his temples, and immediately noticed Su Rao shivering on the floor. What's going on? He vaguely remembered this guy being the bartender, but couldn't recall how he got here. So, this was the bartender's place? Tu Young clicked his tongue in frustration. He quickly got up and lifted Su Rao onto the bed. Sleep in the bed. After moving him, Tu Young washed his face, feeling baffled. I actually got drunk enough to need help getting home? I'm leaving, Tu Young wrote a note and turned to go, but something seemed off. Why was Su Rao shaking so much? He approached and noticed Su Rao's face flushed unnaturally. He glanced at the mat and touched Su Rao's forehead. Hey, wake up. You've got a fever. You need to go to the hospital, he said, shaking him urgently. Huh? Su Rao mumbled, dazed, as he looked up at Tu Young. What? Tu Young patted his face gently, trying to wake him. You've got a fever. Oh, no big deal. Just wrap up and sleep it off, Su Rao said, curling up under the blanket. He only had a headache. No need to worry, he thought. I won't go collect bottles today. He sighed inwardly and fell asleep again. Back to the present. Su Rao looked at the drip above him, confused. Wasn't he just asleep in his own bed? You're awake? Tu Young, who had been observing him, spoke up. He looked at the empty bag and called for the nurse. Why did you bring me to the hospital? Su Rao had no memory after falling asleep. How did Tu Young get him out? Couldn't have carried him, right? Tu Young yawned lazily. You had a high fever and refused to go to the hospital. It's partly my fault you got sick, so I brought you here. Su Rao scratched his head. Was I really that compliant in my sleep? Tu Young chuckled without a word. Come on, time to head home. Su Rao looked at the dark sky outside, feeling annoyed. He threw off the blanket and put on his shoes. I need to buy a computer and get to work. Thanks for everything. He put on his jacket, ready to leave. If he was late, he'd lose pay again. Wait, I'll go with you. During Su Rao's time in the hospital bed, Tu Young had signed the contract. With the transition not yet complete, he figured he wouldn't have work right away. Morning. After settling Su Rao, Tu Young got a call to return to the company for a meeting. He had expected it, but didn't think they'd be so eager. He leisurely drove to the company, knocking lightly on the meeting room door. Everyone's here? He sounded like the host, not a participant. Li Yin couldn't stand his laid-back attitude, rolling her eyes and urging him to sit. All right, everyone's here. Let's discuss a matter. Tu Yang. You should know about it already, right? Tu Yang raised an eyebrow. What should I know? The other members exchanged confused glances, unsure of the cryptic conversation. The company has plans for you to develop independently from the group. You should be aware of this. Li Yin pulled out a contract from her bag. See if you have any objections, she said, sliding the contract to Tu Yang. Tu Yang scoffed. The contract's already drawn up. What opinions could I have? He flipped through it carelessly, signing his name in a flourished. All right, once you've signed, you're a solo artist. Remember to post on Weibo to inform the fans. You know what to say. Li Yin didn't wait for the others' reactions, leaving the room in her high heels. Tu Yang clicked his tongue but logged onto Weibo to soothe the fans. Spent a wonderful time with the members of the Sun. Unfortunately, we can't continue together. This decision was made by the company and myself. Please don't overthink it, fans. That's all. Captain, have you thought it through? Su Su asked, secretly pleased. Tu Yang was the most popular member, and his departure was beneficial for the rest of them. Do I have a choice? Tu Yang shrugged, pushing back his chair and leaving the room. Su Su gritted his teeth in frustration. So what if he's popular? He'll regret leaving the group? After leaving the company, Tu Yang headed straight to the hospital. It was the first time he'd seen someone get sick from helping another. He wondered if Su Rao was feeling better. Thinking about the familiar face on the hospital bed quickened his steps. Seeing Su Rao still asleep, he relaxed. Sitting by the bed, he chuckled, remembering the morning's events. He must have been bewitched to carry someone like that. Just as he was about to check Su Rao's temperature, the latter woke up. Back to the present. Su Rao frowned as the sky grew darker. It seemed the boss would definitely dock his pay tonight. What's wrong? Tu Yang sensed Su Rao's foul mood since he woke up. Was he upset about being brought to the hospital? I'm going to be late for work. I'll buy the computer after, Su Rao said, deciding to keep working at the bar for now and think about writing novels later. Do you need it urgently? I could go buy it for you, Tu Yang offered, then paused, thinking he might have been too forward. He felt Su Rao was familiar, but to Su Rao, he was just someone hitting on him. Just as he was about to explain, he noticed Su Rao hesitating. Tu Yang swallowed his words, waiting for Su Rao's response. I don't need it urgently, but can you get me a cheap, good one? It doesn't need much, just not slow. Tu Yang still owed him for 2 favors. If he could choose a good computer, he'd consider it payment for the first debt. Tu Yang nodded. He needed a new computer too, and figured he'd do some work during these few days off. My bus is here. Remember, under 3,000. Su Rao shouted as he ran for the bus. Got it. Tu Yang chuckled, heading to the car. As Tu Yang drove to the computer store, he was unaware of the storm brewing online due to his Weibo post. What does this mean? He's leaving the group? Did the company force you, baby? Little sons, go tear apart the official Weibo. Supporting Yang's decision. Let's walk the flower road together. Finally, no more dead weight dragging him down. Young fans, have some shame. Maybe he did something to make the company give up on him. Yeah, what's there to like about him? Ugly and mediocre talent. Tu Yang's fans, team fans, and anti-fans were all in an uproar. Meanwhile, the manager's company statement only added fuel to the fire. But the man at the center of it all was leisurely shopping for computers. 3,000 for a computer seemed too cheap. If he bought a better one, would the kid notice? Hello, sir. What type of computer are you looking for? Tu Yang waved him off, indicating he wanted to look alone. I'll take these 2. Please deliver them to this address. Looking at the black and white computers, he was satisfied. He'd give the white one to the kid. The silver-white color suited him. The sales clerk's eyes lit up, sensing a big spender. Thank you, sir. Please come again. Something about that sounded off, but Tu Yang nodded and left.